Yeah. Well, we've improved.
I think there was only
one.
I think there was only one moaner.
Yeah.
We certainly had. We had a very strong moaner about the set.
Oh really?
Yeah. They were kicking. They were saying, like, I'd love to know what your rigs look like because that brickwork is so shoddy.
Oh right.
That your rigs must be terrible. What they don't know is, we just had the wrong artwork sent.
Yeah. I mean, no, you got it right.
Because the mortar in this brick works loads better. I think that he was probably a brickie. That's what he was referring.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
No, it looks
this
good.
looks
Now.
like it's been put up by Permission Homes.
It's good to know you.
It's
Persimmons.
Yeah. Did it? Is that how we count? Permission?
Persimmons.
Persimmon? Okay.
Mark Simmons.
Oh, in.
He'd fall down if he'd built it.
He is a fucking...
It would have. It would have proper lumps and bumps coming out of it.
Or it could be boring. No.
No, they're all scaly these days.
They are, I know.
Fuck me, we've gone to bricks to scaly carp in the matter of fucking 2 sentences.
When they were younger.
One of those did £40 the other day.
What's that?
Yeah, one of them fully scaled Simmos.
Wow.
Yeah, in a mare.
Really? What sort of age is that now then? What would that be as a...
Fucking hell, well, I was at 19, he was probably 4 years old.
Forgot about your
Microphone.
microphone already, Chili.
What? Oh, I didn't know he was filming.
This could fall apart.
when we're filming...
This is what we said we're doing
when
the preamble. This is the whole thing.
Whenever you're talking, hold the microphone unless you say...
I've been swearing.
Part of the waffle.
Oh, we love a bit of swearing.
Sorry,
It's all
just
part
Well, I
of it.
apologise for my
now
swearing.
Scott's on his phone.
No, I was trying to find a picture for Chill. It's all part of relevance for the amble.
Okay, yeah.
10:30 you said we were going to start, Dean. It's 11 o'clock.
10 tonight.
You are dragging me back now.
Right, let's
Got a lot to get on with.
We'll get it done, Louis. We'll get it done.
Rolling.
Lewis is a big deal. He's got to go at 1, haven't you? Was it?
Way. Like that.
Oh yeah, so you got to get back and get stuff sorted tonight.
Right, guys, I'm going to say a very warm welcome. Welcome back to the Always Carp Fishing podcast. Once again, I am joined by Mr. Lewis Porter, Harry Charrington, Scott Day, and the man, Mr. Ian Chillcott. So, guys, how have you all been? What have you been up to for the last few weeks? All been busy fishing? Lewis, I know you've had quite a few lovely looking ones lately, mate.
Yeah, I don't want to steal other people's thunder, so let others talk about what they've been up to first.
You always like going last, don't you? You always like gazumping everyone.
I'll go first then. I've done no fishing. I've just been
Next one.
putting my life up the right way round again, and it can all start again at the start of June. And I am so looking forward to it. You'll never know how much, but yeah, things are on the straight and narrow now. So I am going to be fishing in June, but probably a little bit before that, like next week. And yeah, hopefully I can catch some carp.
Nice, mate.
Still catch them in.
Bait boat all prepped and ready?
Just spit on the floor before I say those words in case my mouth gets dirty.
Do you prep a lot of your kit though? You know, when you're like, I'm ready for June. Are you one of these people who make loads of rigs at home and get in sort of?
No.
Right. Okay.
And my gear is I'm lucky because I'll be on the bank when I want to, but I do Mondays and Tuesdays, and Wednesday morning I wake up, I'm having a look at the lake, just get all the info I can in my mind about it, and then I pack up, and when I pack up I clean everything. And the last time I went fishing I did exactly that, and I don't have to do a damn thing. It's all there. All I got to do is fill the bait bags up with a ton of boilies, and off I go.
That is so army of you.
It is army. It's exactly what you did whenever you were out doing whatever you were doing. The only time you ever got the quicker you did everything, get all the weapons cleaned, all the equipment and all the gear stored away. The quicker you did that, the quicker I was in the Pegasus pouring beer down my head like it was going out of fashion. But yeah, there was always a bit of army in me. Hopefully,
Dino, you've had a 50-pounder.
I have.
From France.
Oh, you have to do that straight away. That's so unfair.
Yeah, if let's just equalise it out. Dino, you've had a 20-pounder.
Dino, did you go to France and have a good holiday and enjoy yourself?
No, I had the worst ever start on the bank in 25 years. It was horrendous. I got there.
Did you enjoy it in the end?
Loved it at the end.
Did you enjoy catching your 50-pounder?
I loved me 50
There you go, it
pounder.
doesn't matter.
It was good. No, it was good. The start was horrendous. Like we got there we went back to the farm lake, which we We filmed that 3 years ago,
Yeah.
2022.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. If I'd have started with that, it'd be your excuses coming out. It's a horrendous start.
No, it was. It was like I got so poorly on the Saturday. We stayed at a hotel the night before because when I hate going to France and travelling through the night, getting to the lake, and then you're just all knackered before you start. So we always go down the night before. So we stay like an hour from the lake, so you're fresh face, ready to go. We ate what we can only describe. We had some cold meat out, which was like this French sort of slithered steak. And me and my mate went to town on it. We were eating it. The others didn't. And we were both so ill on that Saturday. Walking around, I felt coming down. I was like, this ain't good. Got to sort of sat the afternoon out in the boat trying to find spots. I found, like, it got to the point where that'll do. Back to the bank. And between Saturday afternoon and Monday morning, I think I'd done 5 full toilet rolls. I was so ill.
What, runny nose?
Mate. yeah, pretty much, mate. Honestly, I have never had, I was doubled over in pain, chronic stomach cramps. I didn't get the other 2 rods out till Monday night, and then Tuesday started fishing. But I did, to be fair, I took a leaf out of Sean McSpadden's book. Last time we went
to the fridge first.
yeah, get the beer down first. But no, I remember when he fished last time there, he went out and he located a spot that had sort of 6-7 inch of weed on it, and he tipped just a load of pellet on it because it was quite a lot of bream in there. He let the bream come in, smashed the spot to pieces, went back 2 days later. That weed now is like an inch. Now you can present, and then after that he like knocked it out the park with like 50s and a 69 and whatever. So I didn't mean to do that. I sort of went there, threw all this bait on it, went and died for 3 days, went back on the spot on the Tuesday morning, and the weed that was there, that was sort of 5-6 inches, was now down to an inch. Could present the baits, and then literally the next morning on the Wednesday I had the 53 off it. So
Well
yeah,
done, Dean.
Very
yeah, it was
nice.
good.
Good man.
It was good.
Very
It was a good
nice.
trip.
Turned it round in the end.
Was that all you caught? That what? Just one?
And 4 bream. That's the downside of feeding the bream. And I lost one as well.
So you didn't really take a leaf out of Sean's book then, in the
No,
sense of
no,
he
I
caught
sort of,
loads of good ones and you had one. But
I think the plan here is not to say a goddamn thing. In case Lewis wants to jump down your
Have you been
throat.
fishing, Dean? No.
Oh no,
Done nothing.
chill. You know, when we'll come on to what we did last week, and he can't. He
hasn't
sit
got
there
a leg to
without
stand
getting He's got nothing, mate.
So I'm
We could
intrigued
rip him a
about
fresh
this.
one.
we can't talk about that because that's all on a film that's coming out later. So you have to say that. But you can't. It's not. You can't spoil the outcome.
Okay. Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, that's been my sort of bit of fishing I've been doing. And then I've seen last week, Lou, you had quite a good hit, mate, as well from your syndicate.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks
now,
ago,
I
was
think
I wasn't going to mention it,
Yeah.
but
Since you've asked,
Did I?
Steve.
Oh, well.
I've been fishing quite a bit since we recorded the last time. Some filming for Fox, which we'll talk about later. A little bit, I guess. We don't want to give it away. Underwater project. And I went back to the Green Acre Syndicate that I talked about, I think in episode 1 of the podcast.
Yeah.
It was, I think I did a 48 hours. I think I did 124, like an overnight. I think it was 20 hours, something like that. It's not really an overnight, I know, but working on the bank whilst I was there, and I blanked, but I fished in deep water and I should have fished in shallow water.
Oh, you alluded to this on the last one.
Yeah, similar mistake, I think.
Oh, you went back and repeated it.
No,
Jesus.
no, different weather conditions. So I went and fished an area which I'd caught from before. Then my good friend Mike Jarvis fished the same swim a few days later and had a right old session. I think he had 9 fish to 45 pound on his first ever session on the lake.
Wow.
So you sheeped him up.
And I massively sheeped him up, yeah. So he was fishing further than I was and shallower. He said he was catching in. He hadn't put a float out, but he reckoned it was like 4 or 5 foot, whereas I was like 9 foot, 10 foot. So I had a lead around in the swim, and everywhere, like on the shallow ground, I was just feeling all these reed stems everywhere, and I thought that doesn't feel presentable. So I rang him up. I said, "Where's this spot you were catching from?" And he's like, "Oh, here we go." I was like, "Well, I've helped you before." So he sent me a picture. And literally I wrapped up to the wraps that he said, and I just cast straight towards where he'd put the little marker on this photo, and it just went crack down, pulled it back, clean gravel. He actually fished, there's like a tree, and he fished 2 rods left and right of the point of this tree. I was fishing right on the point, but you're only talking, I guess as it lands, it'd be a few feet on the lake bed. But I was getting bites. If my left hand rod landed right on the point of this poplar tree, it was the sweet spot. Whereas he was a little bit to the left. But yeah, no doubt it was the spot that he told me. And again, that wasn't a spot that he found. That was a spot that his mate had fished, and a friend of mine as well had fished 9 years before that, 8 or 9 years before that, which is a spot that Tom Maker fished when we filmed a really early Fox film longer than that. So just goes to show it kind of passes down the, down the years sort of thing. I'd try to do my own thing, I guess, in the earlier trips fishing in that deeper water, but I should have just gone straight in on and
shallow a bit. Like.
The thing that threw me was in front of the swim was all this reed stuff, and it's quite far to the left of the swim that the spot was, and I hadn't considered maybe fishing that far left in the swim. But given that
someone else's swim.
Well, no, because there's a big gap between that and the next swim down, and there's another swim I think that used to be there that's all got trees in front of it now, so it's kind of like a no man's land area. Anyway, yeah, so I did 2 nights there and had 5 fish, 330s, so it's right.
Very nice.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, man.
Really good session. Got through quite a bit of boilie. It was really nice fishing because I popped the float up and I was able to walk down the bank that runs like a dam wall that runs on the end of the lake. And at the full range with my catapult, I was able to fire 15 and 18 mil boilies around the float. So I didn't have to spom because it's like 22 wraps or whatever I could do without that. I just was going around, levered a load of boilies in, fished 2 rods on it and caught, and then went out to top up because I knew it was the full extent of my catapult, and I had a crow's nest in the tree on the far bank. I was able just to use that as a marker and keep going around and topping up with boilies. And
Just boilie fishing.
just boilies.
When was the last time we did that? I can't remember the last time I did it. I know you've just done it.
Yeah,
It's just something that not many people do these days.
I'd done my first.
There's a guy sitting
yeah.
right to your left.
There's a lot of rudd in the lake, lots of rudd, and in the few days before when Mike fished, he actually caught 2 rudd up to about £2 on spinner rigs and pop-ups. So there was no way I was going to start putting corn or pellet or chop in when there's rudd about. So it suits me perfectly. Love it. Just loads of boilies.
Yeah, it's nice fishing, boilie fishing, isn't it? But it's simple but effective, isn't it? There's no two ways about it.
But yeah, it was good. So that's that was a really nice session. I haven't been able to get back because of the filming we've had to do with work. But what was quite nice on that session as well is Mike came down for the second night and dropped into the next swim down from me. Again, a completely new swim for him. And he had 3 fish to mid-20s on that night as well. So brilliant. The next morning after he got down, me photographing a fish for him photographing a fish for me. For me, that's like the best bit about fishing. If 2 mates can fish side by side, both catch.
Yeah,
really nice, and it makes you feel a little bit less guilty when you've sheeped them up.
Fair play. Nice session and some lovely fish, mate, to be fair. For the benefit of people on YouTube, they get to see that fish. So if you do want to look at what Lewis has caught, it's on the YouTube, so go and check that out. What about you, Scott? You been out doing much or just heading design and products and everything else?
Everything's a little bit intense at this time of the year anyway. Plus I've got a trip to the Far East on Monday. So yeah, I haven't been able to get out apart from the fishing that we did during the filming last week. So that's been it really.
Right.
I think we should really get into a little bit about the underwater because it is, I think, relevant to the time of year. Like, we had a pretty good couple of days filming the underwater.
Day and a half.
Literally day and a half really, where we actually had rods in front of the cameras, fish feeding, caught a few, started to work it out, started to put something together, and on the Wednesday morning, so what would have been our sort of second full day at it, they've started spawning. So like you plan these things so far in advance, literally best part of a year.
Well,
in
we
advance.
booked that date in November, didn't we? So
Yeah.
we booked the date in November. The lake's never spawned in April before. It's always been the end of the first week of May or later.
Yeah.
And the only availability they had for us to really do the filming was the end of April into the first 2 days of May. Which should have been prime.
Which is prime time.
And you think what we were talking about last time we were here, how we all said we were a couple of weeks behind,
I know.
and then we've literally gone within a couple of weeks behind to potentially 2 weeks in front.
That's it. You have
I'd never
three
imagined it.
days of 25 degrees, and it wasn't just there. It was a lot of lakes
all over
the country.
It must have caught so many people off guard, as I don't think anybody would have thought they'd have
But
gone
that's
so
what-
early.
I mean, it caught us off guard because we've turned the cameras on in the morning, and particularly on the spot that I was fishing, I'd put in quite a lot of bait, and they were there feeding, proper troughing that morning to the point where they had stirred it up that much that we wouldn't have been able to see a rig on the bottom. So I had to wait for them to clear the bait to get a rig in. Got a rig in, caught a fish on it. When I've gone to put the rod back out, I've miscast, wound the rod in, caught a bit of weed, and in the weed, bearing in mind there had been no thrashing or anything, in the weed were eggs. And it was like, oh.
I think the difference there, though.
That's it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no
We're
real.
reeling
There's
in.
nothing for him in the margins as such to go in, so they were probably doing it in. Well, there's not much weed in
And
there.
I think they had just started,
Yeah.
and that was just sort of to the left of where I was fishing and to the right of where I was fishing was pretty much the shallowest area of the lake,
And the only bit
and
of
the
weed
only
around.
bit where
Yeah.
there had been some weed grow, so there was silkweed, so the only sort of medium for them to spawn in, and that was where they started. But then we stayed on for an extra night, obviously not fishing, but getting things finished for the film, getting bits and bobs finished, packing up. It's a lot of kit to sort out, and by the next morning they were going everywhere.
Yeah, all around the islands and down the margins. It was full on, weren't it, by the first day?
Yeah.
And
Such a shame because, like you say, we were just building. We were just starting to ring some changes. We were talking about what we were going to do slightly different, not necessarily to stimulate any difference in feeding response or
Just to
whatever.
try and
Just
convert more
tweaks.
chances,
Just changes, and we never really got the opportunity to do so, which was.
Well, I
Go
doff my caps to you personally because you are showing a world. Yes, you're fishing. Yes, you're having successes, but you're prepared to reel in when they are at their most vulnerable. You don't want to be fishing from when they start spawning, and so many lakes nowadays don't.
it wasn't an option. I mean, no, it's not an option to fish for us. Do you know what I mean? As soon as it was clear they were spawning, that
isn't the general feel
No.
in my experience. And I'll tell you one now. I joined Farnham Angling, which I'd never done in my life. I was going to go and fish Mill Lane. The first session I went up there was 36 swims and there was 36 people on there, so I went home. I went up there again. I got one swim that had been vacated, and the next morning they started spawning in front of me, and the first thing I did was reel my rods in. And only 2 other people on the whole lake did the same. They stayed there, and they were spawning all the way around the lake in the margins. You could see them, and I think that shows little or no respect for the fish that you're fishing for, and it shows that the club itself doesn't have any respect for the fish. They're just interested in the money you're going to pay them.
It was not it wasn't difficult because as soon as we found out that they were spawning, it's all of us are like, well, morally it's not right, but there were fish feeding in front of the cameras on all of the spots
Yes.
That's amazing.
that morning, despite there being a group of fish spawning.
Yeah.
There were fish feeding on all the spots, but it wasn't right. And we wound in, and it informed Lee, the owner, and he shuts when they're spawning. He shuts the lake for a week,
man.
which it's a day ticket lake. Very, very beautiful complex. He's put a lot of time, effort, and money into it, and just shutting the lake for a week will cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But
He's got to. He legislates for that. He's got to shut it at some point, whether it's then or 2 weeks after.
Well, he doesn't have to.
Well,
A lot of venues don't. A lot of owners don't. They'll just shut a few swims. I think, it's.
I don't think that sends a good signal into the public domain either.
I think it's tricky because you don't know the financial situation of every venue owner. They might have debt to pay that they can't.
You shouldn't be in the game then. If you haven't got respect for the fish that you're fishing for, you shouldn't be making money out of it in the first place. And that's unarguable in my book.
If you ain't got the fish, you ain't got a fish. You ain't got a fishery, have you?
And you've got to think, exactly. You've got to think of the safety of them. So many of them have got caught around the time of spawning, and I've seen it loads of times when I've been fishing. You don't no sign of spawning at all, and you get a fish and you get a bite, and you're playing the fish in, and a lovely fish or roll. You think that's nice. You're shifting the landing net out, and all of a sudden, this sort of mid-20 common is getting battered by about 10 smaller stockfish that are in there. It's that immense, like where they're exerting energy to get off the end of your line, that stimulates them into it. And as soon as I saw that, I sort of reeled it in and got it in the net, unhooked it, and went home. And I think everybody should do the same. I'm a bit hard and fast on that, but I think that is the way that angling should be controlled.
The other thing with that is, like, some lakes shut when they start spawning, but they're as vulnerable in the days leading to spawning as they are whilst they're spawning and the days afterwards. And for me, we didn't know they were going to go. You know, it was just literally. I know, that's what I mean. But, I'm not going to go fishing now, and I won't go. Well, I can't anyway, so I'm not going to be here. But I wouldn't go anyway, because if I know they're that close to spawning, then there is. You know, there is as much danger as they are. But like, they're spawning. Let's shut it.
It's easier for a fishery owner to close it for spawning if they've got a smaller stock of fish. Some of the more heavily stocked venues, of which there's a lot around nowadays in the UK, if they've got 2,000 carp or whatever, like Brasenose one has, they don't all spawn at the same time because they're farmed fish and they're stocked in year classes. They'll often. So you could have a spawning period that lasts 6, 8, 9 weeks intermittently, and if you had to keep opening and closing it, it's not necessarily possible to do that financially, but also logistically for a busy day ticket. I think on a syndicate lake, it's an easier thing. You know, they have a 6-week close down, the fish get it all done, and then it reopens. So I think for a day ticket, it is harder. I think of the venue owner control it to a certain point, but then it's down to the moral compass of the people fishing to then, if they start spawning during their session, to pack up and go home and not demand a refund off the venue owner, because he can't. It's a natural risk. It's not. And you know, we'd paid for the filming last week for a whole week. We paid for food and we went home early, but we didn't kick off with the owner and demand our money back and a refund. Like, it's a natural occurrence. Like, you take the gamble.
And I dare say, with a lot of good fishery owners, fishery managers, if you do have to cut your session short, rather than demanding a refund or them giving you a refund, they might and a lot of them do this, is give you 24 hours free later on in the year, something like that. And I think that's a fair way of. I
get the shutting it for a business point of view, and that's a real hard thing to juggle and decide on. I get that, you know, it's people's way of living. And just like you mentioned the moral side of it. For me, I just won't bother now. You know, but that's up to individuals to take their own thing on. If the spawning, if you've got 2 lakes over side of the road, like we have on our lake, if they go on one, then generally the other one's going to be really close. If they go first, I know ours is going to go. If we go first, Steve knows his is going to go. So at that point, then I'm just like, well, I won't bother anyway, and just leave them to it.
That's what it doesn't feel right as an angler being there. You just get that feeling of like, I should not be fishing for these fish. You look at the calendar year, it's probably the most important time for that carp. And for me,
some people do.
Yeah, it's mad though.
And
I cannot get my head
around it. The majority would rather stay there and fish. From the evidence that I've seen, I can only work on what I've seen people do. It's why I don't like to say it, because they do an incredible job and get people into fishing and all the rest of it. It's why I rarely fish day ticket lakes. Because that's one of the biggest reasons that I don't, because I don't see them, people respecting the fishing. You know, I'll take it back a little bit, back to 1980, when Chris Yates caught that carp out of Redmire, £51. And the photographs of him are iconic in the game, but he laid that fish on the ground and he wouldn't pick it up because it was absolutely full of spawn. And yeah, you get it nowadays. I saw someone on the interweb the other day. I don't necessarily read these things, but these reels, whatever it's called, come up on my phone, and you see this bloke, and it was probably in its real form 19-20 pound, and its belly was sticking out under its chin and out behind its vent, and he's holding it up about 3 foot off the ground. And again, that I think that shows a massive disrespect for the fish that you're fishing for.
I think a lot of that as well is education. I don't necessarily.
Well, that's why I say what I say, because I think people need that.
Yeah,
and I'm not being rude. I'm just talking facts, and educating people is the way to do it.
It's pressures of modern day carp fishing, isn't it? I mean, how many lakes now shut or have a closed season? There ain't many.
No,
now, yes, they shut for spawning. I get that, and that's great that they do it. But years ago, whether or not the official closed season is the right timing is very debatable. However, they shut. We used to have a closed season, the fish got a rest. Nowadays, they don't. No. Yes, they might get 2 or 3 weeks when someone shuts the lake for spawning, but ultimately, they don't get a rest anymore at all. So, you know, wherever you choose to shut your lake for a period of time, I think that only does them good.
Yeah.
And it's just modern day pressures just mean that lakes need to stay open as much as they can. And it's a massively fine balance between
Are you
business
talking the
and
pressure on the carp, or are you talking about the pressure on the people to catch carp?
Probably a bit of both, mate, if I'm honest.
And I cannot, and I still cannot fathom why anybody buys a ticket for anywhere and feels pressured in catching a fish. We do it because we go out and do some filming and whatever, and you feel a little bit of pressure. When I go normally on my own, as long as I've done the things that I want to do in the way that I want to do them, and I've done my best, then I never feel under pressure to catch. And
do you not feel under pressure if you've sheeped one of your mates up and gone on a spot that they've caught 9 fish from a few days before?
I've probably done that more times than I care to mention.
As that last rod goes out, you're like, this better go in the morning.
There are situations that can leave you, wondering what the hell's going on. But no, I just, I don't think people should feel under pressure to catch a carp. You know, but then again, I don't believe that people should ring up 2 years before to book a swim on a day ticket water and then go and see, because you've just written off 90% of the fun of going fishing. You know, first find your fish and do the things and look around and take in your environment, look at the trees, look at the wildlife. You've got nothing to do but move into a swim that you booked 2 years before. And I cannot see.
That's a whole new kettle of fish.
We touched on it last time.
It's a long way off.
No, we touched on it last time, didn't we? And carp fishing now is not what it was 20, 30 years ago. Never will be. It won't be the same in 20, 30 years' time going forward. So, you know.
And I've been writing for 30 years, so I've got to have a little bit of responsibility, I suppose.
I think if there's a takeaway for everyone listening to this part, is just if they are showing signs or if they're spawning, give them a break.
If you're married or got a girlfriend or boyfriend or kids, if you decide to pack up halfway through your session because they're spawning and you go home, generally they're going to be very happy to see you because they expected you to be away for a day or two. You've come home. You don't even tell them that they're spawning. You just say, I was missing you. I wanted to spend some time with you. The fishing can wait. And they, that's brilliant. Yeah, go and do some family stuff. Or
unless
stuff
you get home and there's a different car on the drive.
Maybe give them a pre-warning before you do. Earn some brownie points. Bank the time for when because if they're spawning, they're not going to be feeding anyway, and they're not going to be in the good condition. Like, it's not worth it.
Does Abby listen to these podcasts?
Unfortunately, in my case, I've done the coming home early too many times now that she knows if I come home early, it's either because they're spawning or I'm bored and I'll give up.
I think you've actually passed on some of the finest angling tips I've ever heard there, actually. I was like, well done, Louis.
Bank the brownie points.
That was good angling, Louis. Well done.
Yeah. I think it's also worth mentioning some news from within the team.
Yes.
Moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
You're moving on?
No.
You've only been here 5 minutes. Cheers, Dean.
I hope not, unless you can tell me something
New
I don't
host
know.
after 3 episodes.
No, I don't know if you've all seen it. Was it this week or last week?
It was at the weekend. So by
Bank
this,
holiday.
yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll be about 9 or 10 days.
Yeah, it would have been.
ago.
But if you've seen it, you would have seen Mark Bartlett's absolutely amazing capture of what he had from his syndicate water.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's one of the
Pronounce it, Dean. Pronounce the name of Mark Bartlett's syndicate water in Wales.
Scott can do it fantastically well.
I ain't got a clue where it is, mate.
Pronounce it. Come
I
on.
know it's somewhere in
called
Wales, and that's
Lanson,
it.
but I
Come
haven't
on,
looked at
Dean.
it. I'm
You're
not
You were
from
from
saying how-
Shropshire.
you
You're
were saying how
basically
close
Welsh.
you were,
Come on.
Welsh.
No,
Yeah.
honestly.
No,
what-
go, gosh.
It's something like Lycantinant.
Flat.
Say that again,
Steve.
Steve. Don't slow it down, though.
Steve's gonna kill me.
Lamy Canty.
Oh, I think that's closer.
Lanacanti, there you go. Alacanti, we'll call it that. Sounds good.
Anyway,
the Welsh
it's
version.
got a very
Alacanti.
Welsh name.
It's an amazing little lake. Lewis has fished there. I've been there. We filmed a challenge on there back maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I think Mark caught 330s from it. But anyway, it must be one of the biggest fish in Wales, and it's one of the best.
Oh,
How big was it? I don't know how big it was.
Have you got it?
I've seen the photograph of it. It's incredible.
It was 47.
47.
Just
Trouble is, Mark's got hands like shovels, hasn't he? And he holds these fish up. and
Yeah.
he's sort of
yeah. He is,
over it.
but he didn't just have that. He braced it with a 40-pound common.
Dean
and he had
showed me the picture.
2 or 3 other 30s and a mid-20.
Dean, for the people who can't watch on YouTube, maybe describe Mark's 47-pounder for the listener.
If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're watching it via
got a tail,
a podcast,
fins,
it is
few
just
scales.
a biblical-looking creature. It's got like red and orange sort of belly, covered in scales, black as you like shoulders, and it's just an immense-looking carp. It is, I think, what is it? It's called the carving, isn't it? That's right. It's called the carving, and that's exactly how you describe it. But then he went on to catch dark-coloured commons, and it was just a hell of a session for him. And as Chili said, I'm looking at the photo now, but in Bartlett's hands, it does look like a 29-pounder because his hands are so massive. But no, it's a biblical-looking fish, a fish of a lifetime for many, many anglers. And you know, I'm looking at that now, and that would be a complete dream to have in anyone's album. To be fair,
It's a magical lake as well.
Mm.
I went there a few years ago, and it took me 5 hours to drive there from my house because I'm on the east side. It's obviously Wales on the west. The last hour and a half of the drive through Wales was unbelievable.
It's stunning.
Waterfalls, forests. It was just
Wow.
beautiful.
All
I've been
the
to New
valleys.
Zealand, and it was like driving through New Zealand again. It was unbelievable. And before I'd even got to the actual lake, I was buzzing just by the beauty of the countryside, and then the lake itself, gin clear, spring fed, up in the mountains.
wow.
Don't know if you could call it mountains, hills. I'm not really sure where one
Yeah,
becomes the other, but
When you run up them, the mountains, believe me, I ran up a lot of them in my time.
yeah, not lots of carp in there. Hand-picked carp that Steve and Shanod, that his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure if they're married, so I apologise if they're not.
It's amazing, though, that the history of it. You think, I mean, I was in Hereford for a few years in my career, and I used to go for a run every night past the road that leads down to Beneath Court and Redmire. And there was no other carp in the whole area. It was all about salmon and trout fishing in Hereford on the River Wye. And I used to go down into Wales all the time, up Penny-Fan and running around the hills and all that. And it's a really beautiful place. But I like the way that their carp fishing has progressed. They never got infected with like the foreign influx of fish we had brought into the country and stuff like that. Nobody really wanted it there, and they've bred fish on in that environment, and so those fish are capable of surviving in that environment.
I think
it does get some weather whales.
I think it would be remiss from a factual point of view just to set the record straight, because your knowledge on this venue won't be as...
No, I don't. I've got a clue.
Yeah.
So
They're all from Croatia. No.
technically, depending on where you draw the line, they're English-born fish.
Yeah.
They were born. Some of the stock in there were from VS, and some are from Front Fish. I think some have also come from Whitewater and maybe some other fish farms. the particular fish that Bart, the big one that Bart caught, is a front fish, I believe, that came from an English fish farm, but has grown to enormous sizes in the Welsh waters. So I don't know if there's even such a thing as a carp fish farm in Wales yet. If there isn't, maybe that's a
that's what I'm saying. That is
British, though, for sure.
A very good history, and that makes that water very, very unique. And I hope the Welsh, I mean, they got some fantastic places. Like you were just saying, it's an amazing country, and if they can spread it around, people will travel there. That's the thing, and it's not an hard place to get to. Wales, you bomb over the old bridge on the M4, and you're there.
Might be a hard place to fish that late because it's a 10 or 12 man syndicate, I think. So you're getting on it. Yeah. But hopefully it will spread there and people will realise that there's. But I don't think there's a huge waiting list, and the fish have
probably
been
is now.
The fish have been publicised for a few years now, so there has been ample opportunity for people to get their name on.
I don't think there are that many carp fishermen in Wales. I fished farriers a few years ago, the Carp Society place up in the Cotswolds there, and there were 2 or 3 guys used to come over from Wales, lovely guys, and they always used to tell me that there were so few people, and the ones that were there were all coming over the bridge or whatever, or going around the tip of the Wye up through Gloucester to get to the carp. So it's good to know they've got, and that will send a signal to other people out there that it's worth doing.
Well, they've certainly got a few pretty iconic venues now with the wharf,
the Philly
Castle, which is just unreal. And those
venue,
fish are storming in there. They're really coming through, growing really quick. And then this place that has just got, well, I think probably 80% of the stock is over £30.
Wow.
Which is, I think it's 2.5, 3 acres, something like that. Quite deep.
One thing that's worth for me mentioning about the venue as well, because it was something I really liked when I went there. There's a lot of flint on the lake bed. It's absolutely prime for cutting you off. It's shards. I guess it was carved out by the Ice Age or whatever into this side of this mountain or hill or whatever
what it was dug for in the first place.
I'm not sure its history, but it's got these huge boulders of flint, and it is just waiting to cut you off. Now, on 99% of the lakes I fish, owners are thinking about what happens if somebody gets cut off. So there's no leaders allowed. It's all like what's going to happen after you've been cut off. Whereas Steve runs this particular lake, or how he did certainly a few years ago. I can't imagine he's changed.
It's the same.
It was about preventing the cut off in the first place.
Yeah.
So you had to use a lead core leader. You had to use a certain number of meters of snag braid leader.
Yeah, 50-pound braided leader.
You had to fish locked up, no loose clutches. You had to drop the lead on the take. You couldn't use a rod pod. You had to use single bank stick so you could fish locked up effectively and not have you set up. Yeah. Everything was
minimum line 0.40.
Yeah, everything was geared about you're not getting cut off and you're not leaving my fish trailing line. Yeah. So rather than, if you get cut off, at least my fish is only trailing some line and a rig, he's like, I'm not having my fish get cut off. And
good man.
I found it so refreshing because so many lakes you go to, it's all about the thought about what's happened after you've been cut off, where his whole thought was
he's got a small syndicate as well, hasn't he? And that is very easy to educate those people. I hate having knots in my line. Any knots further up my line, I just hate it because I just think they're an accident waiting to happen, pick things up and whatever. But Wazzy can educate those people. But again, that's something that needs to be talked about more often.
I think it's a really good idea.
I do. It ain't the sort of the way I'd want to fish, but I totally understand why he wants to do that. And I think that is a really good idea.
I've fished syndicates where certain rules restricted you from casting long, and then diameters of line were changed to prevent people cracking off.
Yeah.
Why not just not let them use a leader or a tapered line? In all the modern tackle that we all develop and do now, you've got tapered lines, decent leaders, all that kind of thing. The knots can be really small. We've got bits of terminal tackle that allow things to pass over the knots and everything like that. I mean, to me, it makes sense to not get cut off than say if you do get cut off. And we do so many things between all the tackle companies now that means that rigs are safe. If used correctly, don't get me wrong, people have to be educated to use them correctly. It just makes sense.
All I know is I can't remember exactly how many
Prevent
I
a crack
caught.
off rather than
Yeah,
low
yeah,
diameter
yeah,
to get a crack off.
I think I had. It was quite a long time ago. I think I had 3 or 4 fish when I was there, or 3 or 4 bites, and I landed I never had a cut off, never lost a fish, and I think this, when you did the challenge with Mark there, he never had a cut off.
Yeah, no.
You follow the owner's rules. There isn't a problem. The fish can't cut you off, and
Rainbow's quite an extreme example. And I ain't fished for a long time, but to be fair, when I fished it, because I knew what it was entailed and was told and prepared myself beforehand, you're using strong braid, strong leaders, mono leaders with braid, so you get a bit of stretch, all that kind of thing, long lengths of submerge and stuff like that. You use really heavy gear, but we go for 2 weeks, land 50 fish between us, only lose like 2 or 3 to a hook pull. I can't remember the last time I lost a fish on Rainbow in a snag, because you're preventing them from getting in a snag, and then you've got gear that allows you to land them rather than them
It's
go
quite
in.
a frightening experience when you first do it. I remember my first trip to Rainbow was in swim 18, probably one of the most famous swims in the world of angling. And it's a very boring swim actually, because there's only 4 places you can really put a hook bait, but I put them there and I fed it away from the snags a little bit because I didn't want to fish right in them. And you know it when you get a bite. Jeez, the old rod goes hammering over, but as long as they can't take any line, I agree with you.
Like you said, I think with this as well, it is education, and I think a lot of people will have their standard setup, and they'll continue using that when they're fishing out in the lake. There'll be some fish moving by some snags, so they'll just move a rod, put in by the snags or by the reeds and stuff like that, and it's not considering changing your setup to suit. And that is why lots of companies make lots of different products, because they are tools for a job. These rules there are making sure that you're using the correct tools that are going to get
I think
the
it's
job
really
that
good,
the
really
owner.
good news. I think that is. That should spread, I think.
It's good. It's
You
good
know?
fishery management, isn't it? That,
I'm not the greatest changer of rigs because I like to fish the open water. I'm not a lover of snag fishing. So I did 4 trips to Rainbow back a few years ago, and it wasn't the greatest fishing for me because you just sat by your rods all day long, not wanting a fish to get in the snags. And but so I fish the open water. But changing your tackle to the conditions that you're in.
It just
vital.
makes sense. Prevent
a lot
it.
of people don't.
Yeah.
You're right, and that's a massive thing to consider.
That is good. So first up,
Anyway, well done, Bart.
Yeah, well done, Bart. Tip of the cap to Mr. Bartlett.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And can we talk about his boy? With his
yeah,
40 pounder.
yeah.
I saw that come up.
Totally.
Man. And the shot, I mean, if anybody, there was a guy when I was poorly used to send me shots of his kid and him fishing, and that shot of him and his boy with a 40 pounder in his hands was quite incredible. And I think it just sums up everything good about carp fishing.
Yeah, that was from his syndicate lake. He fishes in the Cotswolds. I think the week before. I think it was it?
Really?
I think a week or 2 when it was half term. I think he took his lad down to there, and
he's got his dad's pheromones, hasn't he? Because
he's got that conversation, Chili.
Sorry. Yes.
That is a kettle of fish. Yeah.
No, we ain't going there. Not going in that kettle.
And also that fish, so that 40-pound ridiculous scaly thing. That his boy caught. He caught that fish in the winter when he was there on another session.
It's a lovely story, and I love the picture. Brilliant it was. Well done, Bart.
Yeah, well done, Roo.
Yeah,
At least his boy makes a carp look big.
Not for long.
Yeah.
Not for long. No, he's going to grow.
Got his mum's hands.
Brilliant.
What I wanted to do as well, guys, was touch on some feedback from the first sort of couple of podcasts we did. We had some great feedback, some sort of little snidey comments as well, which I want to get into a little bit, mate. Yeah, what's coming. But no, I wanted to just look over some stuff. We had some really great feedback, some really good positive stuff as well. So I've just highlighted some bits and pieces here. Lou, you got a load of love, mate. Lewis Porter on the podcast is the very different Lewis Porter than we see on YouTube. Had me in stitches. Absolutely love him. Bit of love for Lou there.
That is shocking. Well done, Lou.
That's the question I'll come across on YouTube, I guess.
But again, just watch the podcast. These are taken from YouTube, and also most of them are from the Syndicate, which is Fox's sort of online Facebook social group that everyone can be part of.
Search it on Facebook.
Get it on Facebook.
What's it called, Dean?
It's called the Syndicate, which is the official. Hang on, let me just find this.
The Syndicate, Fox's official online community.
There you go.
Well done, Harry.
Got it down to a T. But yeah, no, they're all saying great podcast, really enjoyed it. All topics covered, loads of different opinions. We did have a little bit about the set last time, which we now changed, as you can see. But 95% of the comments were all really, really positive. But this one here I want to put to you and see what you guys think of this. So he's put, no one knows who the hell these anglers are. Invest in decent anglers, Fox, or you'll end up like the next JRC.
Bit harsh on JRC.
Bit harsh, but
Rude.
so there is going to be a bunch of people. There's a lot of anglers who've come into the sport since COVID and over the last sort of 10 years, and I'm guessing there is a few out there who don't know who Lewis Porter is and who Scott Day is and who I am. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to talk about who we are, what we do in the trade, how long we've been doing it, to give an insight to basically the background.
If he works for HMRC, I'm glad he doesn't know who I am.
But I do think that there is, particularly Scott and Lewis haven't done a lot on our YouTube, our social media in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, because they've got incredibly busy jobs at Fox that take a lot of time away, and these guys aren't just going out fishing all the time for filming and stuff like that. They're getting,
it's about the only fishing I do,
products made, getting products developed, setting strategy. Lewis's job doesn't just revolve around Fox. There's a wider business that he covers as well. So I think it's a bit unfortunate that people don't know who these guys are, because one, they are absolute weapons at carp fishing, ridiculously good.
Ooh, Harry.
And I think people deserve to know more about them, and that's partly why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah. No, for sure. Mate, I spoke to you yesterday. Now, Scott, I've known you for 20 years. I remember speaking to you when you were selling advertisement for angling pubs and whatever. So I used to have a tackle shop, and my advertisement was done in the magazines, and I used to speak to Scott about certain adverts going in and stuff. And of all the time I've known you, I only found out last week about the Northern Special recipe. CC Moore's Northern Special pop-ups was actually your brainchild when you sat down with Gaz and developed it with him. So that blew my mind, mate, to be fair.
Well, it wasn't Gaz, to be fair. He was back when we were fishing the Mere.
Yeah.
Reed's Mere.
Yeah.
So what sort of time scale is this? Back in the what sort of year you think you're talking?
Probably be late 90s, early 2000s, something like that, I think.
Right.
But yeah, so the Northern Special, I believe, was Gaz's take on what we were doing back then.
Yeah.
And going back then, sort of mine and Sean's that became what we use now, they stem from Frank's baits. So Frank Warwick used to knock up his own baits, his pop-ups in Trev's and Wimslow, and they used to come in little plastic blisters. Used to go in there and buy a few packs of them, and then we'd take them back and give them a little boost in our own liquids and stuff like that. So they were based on Frank's original sort of, it was Autumn Harvest and Tangerine? No, it wasn't. It was Autumn Harvest and what was the other one? Nouvelle Fizz. Sorry, I knew it was that way. And then we went Tangerine. So they were based on Frank's, but we started boosting them with our own liquids, using ethyl alcohols, glycerols, oils, that kind of thing. So you've got loads of different sort of liquids soaking into the bait, so you had different leakage coming through, oils that would come through and lift up in the water and that kind of thing. So it stemmed from Frank's baits, and then we tweaked them and messed around with those base flavours and added a few other things, and they were developed in my garage one evening. And it was actually we were making them for quite a while, and we were using them as just whatever we called them. I don't know, I can't remember. And then Ali came round one day unannounced, trying to get in.
Ali Hamid.
Yeah, Ali had just turned up on the Mere a year or so prior, or whatever it was. I can't remember now. And he just turned up one evening unannounced, and the garage opened, and he was there. He knew we were making bait, and he was trying his best to find out what it was.
Right.
And he was the one that actually named them IBs. So when they were called IBs, and that stands for illegal bastard, because he said they were that good, they should be illegal. So yeah, so you give Ali credit for the name IB, but yeah, the recipe was based off Frank's stuff, and then we tweaked and added stuff. For years. So that's a fair while ago now.
Yeah, no, I remember. Christ, probably I'm going back 10, 12 years ago. I remember Sean ringing us at the shop, and he's like, "I need you to get hold of a flavour for me," and it was. I won't say the flavour, but I had to get hold of Gary Bays to get him a certain flavour that Nash no longer did.
Yep.
But Gary still had sort of his stash somewhere.
I think they then redid it again. I think they stopped it for a while, but then they came back through again.
Yeah, that's it. But Gary was like, "Yes, I've got it somewhere." And I managed to get hold of a litre bottle and sent it down to you. So I know you've always been into that hook bait making and making something a bit different than the norm that's out there.
Yeah, I think it is just worth saying like how much time and effort and thought that Scott has put into hook baits over the years. And I don't know, I said to Scott last week when we were doing the underwater filming that I've always seen him, even though he's not, this is how he as an angler he is in my head. He is a single hook bait angler who, and because I've watched him doing it, will see a fish show, chuck one of his little specials to it, and it will rip off.
Yeah,
and
a poor man's Frank Warwick.
Hey, that'll do, Frank.
Frank from Timu. So yeah, you can tell your troll on YouTube. Scott is basically a Timu version of Frank Warwick.
But no, again, sort of reiterating what Harry has said. What I've seen with Scott and his angling, it's just, you know, it's not blowing smoke, mate, but it is the finesse and the detail and the eye for it, and that goes into the Fox products then of, do you know what I mean, what I can see, what's coming, and just how I think about things, and then I'll get your thought, how you think on the bank. When I seen it when we went to SNR Fishery, and I just, now and again, I'd sort of just nip in and pick one of your rigs up from your bivvy, and I was just like, it's just
don't touch his rig.
I know. It's probably why you didn't catch
I popped him the other day. You picked one up and he was like across his palm. I was like, "What are you doing? Are you bending it?" He's like, "No, just put it down." I'm a bit particular, but yeah.
But no.
But you're also very modest. You don't take the credit. You're not all over social media. Bearing in mind, so yeah, outside of Fox, effectively, the IB Northern Specials, like two iconic flavour combinations, were, I know he's giving credit to Frank, and Frank was the person who started all of that back at Reesmere, but they were like, those hook baits are yours, and I know you're not taking full credit for them. You should. And also 15 years worth of Fox product between you and Sean have, you know, it's ridiculous, and some products that have literally changed the face of carp fishing, or that type of product in carp fishing has been the brainchild of Scott, and he doesn't take the credit for it, and he's not all over everywhere. So I think it's
try and hide.
But for those who don't know who Scott is, he is. He's a pretty big deal around here. He's a pretty big deal.
I've done some fishing. I fished for a few years.
You know, no, it's amazing. And, you know, I look at what Lewis has caught, you know, the most iconic fish in the UK, like the wood common, mate, is just a fish of a lifetime, isn't it? You know, and to catch, what was it, a few days later?
Was it? Yeah, it's. I think just that combination of catching the wood common and then the maxi linear 6 days apart, I'd say there probably isn't two fish that impressive that have been caught by the same person in that close period of time. 2 50-pounders that are that good looking, proper, true blue English.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have
special
to.
ones,
The size is kind of irrelevant in this day and age. I think we talked before about there's so many big fish now.
Yeah, it was probably more relevant back then when it happened.
Back then, to catch 250s from 2 different waters in a week was, but the size was irrelevant for me. They were just the two fish that I really wanted to catch, and I was very lucky to do that. It was a great week, but yeah, no one capture defines me though. So,
no, it was 2 that did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I won't do it once. I'll
2
do it twice.
amazing ones.
Yeah, you've caught other fish, but I think. But this is the thing.
There's a lot more to you, Joey, than 2 carp.
People who are coming into fishing who they maybe been carp fishing for 4 or 5 years and are listening to these podcasts, they won't know the significance of those fish because, well, the wood common is now no publicity, so you don't hear about it, and the maxi fish is dead. But those 2 fish are unbelievable and right up there in the top.
Oh, special.
In the top fish that have ever swam in the UK.
Yeah.
And to catch them 6 days apart is ridiculous.
No, it's biblical. It is. It's just, to dream of having the 1, but having the 2 within 6 days is insane. So yeah, it's kudos to that, man.
Doffing my cap. So.
Thanks, Chilly.
Sorry.
Very much so.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah,
So
no,
and I also think it's worth mentioning. I think a lot of people won't know who you are, Dean.
No, I am Mr. Nobody.
No, that's not. Well, that's not the case.
Not
That's not the
necessarily
case
true, is it?
either.
No.
For people,
Don't put yourself down, Dean. You had a 50-pounder from France last week. Come on, chin up, but have some pride.
See, I'm looking at Ben now behind the camera and laughing his head off, trying to keep quiet.
We'll do our presenting bit. How long in the industry, Dean?
Be a little over 20 years in the industry. Run my own tackle shop for 18 years. But I remember
not just your own tackle shop as well. One of the biggest independent tackle shops in the country, which is no mean feat.
Yeah, it used to be. It's no longer there. The name's gone, but it was Total Angling, which was based in Shrewsbury, Shropshire. And I remember the first when we were sort of sorting it all out, and I had to sort out the accounts and whatever. My first meeting in the morning, the first 2 companies I sat down with, the first one, bless him, was Mr. Ian McMillan. He was my first sit down to get the account when he was with Tracker. It was that long ago that Tracker did boilies.
Tracker did boilies?
Tracker did boilies.
Redskins.
Yeah. Redskins, that was it. And I remember finishing the order with Tong, and he was putting his stuff away, and I looked on the back of the catalogue. I was like, Redskins, little red barrel-looking things. I was like, oh, go on, mate, I'll have 10 bags of that. And he went, you what? I said, I'll have 10 bags of that. He goes, well, that's my commission sorted for the month. You're having that shit. So he goes, there's no way they're going to believe me. I've sold this stuff. So I had that. And then in the afternoon, it was Sean McSpadden who came to see us when he was a rep on the road before he became one of the directors now of the company. And I remember sitting down and doing the first Fox orders back then. And it was that long ago that we used to do PVA bags with mainline flavours. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
it used to be Mapley and Activate flavoured PVA bags. So, and everything was in orange packaging. I remember the first order was all the Evolution luggage and the first Royal luggage. But yeah, and I've still got some of that Evolution stuff today. It's still...
It must have the only stuff going.
I've got an 8-leg bed chair at home. And it's made out of raw iron, but it was the first one we ever made, and it was a prototype, and I've still got that.
No dear.
I had a Great Dane at the time that I used to take fishing with me, and he was the only one who ever... I used to sleep on the floor because he wouldn't sleep anywhere else. But
yeah. But yeah, no, so it's been the last 20 years working with Fox products. I'm watching the company, when we first, Fox didn't do reels when we first did the first orders and stuff. So it's how far the company's come in 20 years from the likes of Sean and Scott developing the product range and growing it. And, I think I've been involved with Fox for probably 12 years now as an angler, 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
And then found myself in a very, very fortunate position to now be working with and sitting and chatting with some of the angling heroes of mine. So
Could be classed as unfortunate, mate.
Yeah, in a lot of cases. Yeah.
but no, very privileged.
And it's also worth mentioning what you're doing now, which is one, hosting the podcast.
Yep.
Two, you are overseeing the Fox Syndicate online community.
Yep.
And also, you've also got your own YouTube channel as well, which is called Always Carp Fishing.
Which is the same as this. Yeah, we've got the Always. So there's a film out. We do a film. Well, I do a film, me and the Hound. Every sort of 14 days there's a film out, and it might be in-session pieces or tips or certain ways of fishing. And then in amongst that, I'm also looking after the Fox community, and honestly, it's such a great community to be a part of. And when we first started it, we wanted the anglers interacting with each other, helping each other out. And at the start, I found myself doing quite a lot of directing people on how to do stuff. And now, because the base has grown 6,000 members now, someone posts up a question, and you've got members helping other people out. It's fantastic, and it's so good to see. There's such a good bunch, and there's no hate in there. That everyone seems to help each other. We don't suffer fools, but it's a good community. And like I say, if anyone can join, all you got to do is search Facebook for it, the Syndicate. You'll become a member, and then I've seen the likes of Harry posting on there, Lewis. Sometimes Andy Maker pops up with his overseas adventures and what he's getting up to. So it is really a hub of information and daily updates as well. So it's great to be a part of.
It's a nice place to be because you don't get like some social media things you go on, all you do is get battered.
Yeah.
But it's nice because everybody else each other out. It's pretty cool.
And it is also, it's private, so anything that you post on there, it'll only go to the other members, so it doesn't go to none of the posts in the group go to what the wider thing on Facebook, which is why if you have just been scrolling on Facebook, you won't have actually seen it. You've got to go and search it to find it.
Yeah. But no, it's a great group, so I definitely recommend people getting involved for everything Fox and Spom. It is the hub of it, without a doubt, on Facebook. And but to sum it up, it's been a great sort of 20 years in the trade. Because I remember when, Lewis, you were the editor of Crafty, was it? Was it Crafty?
Crafty Carper,
yeah. And I remember speaking to your Mrs. Abby, because I used to do vlogs for Carpology online years ago, and I used to send them to Abby, and she would upload it onto the Carpology online sort of site as well. So that was back in the Bait Tech days when I was with them lot, many years ago. But yeah, no, exciting. And to this day, I know I've sit here in a very privileged position to be part of, one, getting to speak to you guys every day and being a part of a great company. So yeah, long may it continue, fingers crossed. I think that sort of gives a little insight to a few people sitting around the table now. And as the podcasts keep going on, you'll start to learn more and more about the likes of Scott and Harry and Lewis and myself. I don't need to mention anything to my man to my right here, because he's caught more fish than I've had hot dinners over the years. So yeah, I think, guys, that brings to a close the podcast number 3. So I just want to say once again, thank you all for joining me, for talking the talk, and hopefully we'll get out there and keep walking the walk as we keep catching them as we go.
Thanks for having us, Dino.
Cheers,
Thank
Dean.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Done.
Oh, did you actually just drop that fox?
Like a pop star, and he's got a smashing guitar up.